What is going on, college football fans? Yes, this is a college football channel. So if you're not a college football fan, why are you watching? There's no point. You might as well change the channel or click off, whatever you want to call it. But if you are a college football fan, then you're in the right place. Take a deep breath. You're fine. Golden Blue Dude here to get you through this. Just to be honest with you, a lot of nonsense going on last off season and then this off season, and it's been tough to keep up with, but we've done our best to try to keep up with it and explore all the avenues of conference realignment. And then we got some news yesterday that College Game Day is actually going to be at the Backyard Brawl this year. And then I also heard, well, it's not going to be a regular College Game Day. You know how they gather outside the stadium and fans in the background. It's going to be more of a inside the stadium. I don't know if that means in studio or just have a set inside the stadium, because if you notice, sometimes when they go inside the stadium, they have platforms. I remember whenever they came to Clemson, this was before I had my YouTube channel, but they came to Clemson. No, this was right when I started my YouTube channel, but they had it set up back behind Howard's Rock. You could see the set from the road, but you couldn't really get behind it because it was all to itself. So they'll probably do something like that. So I might have to get crafty or something. I don't know. I'm not going to do anything illegal or anything like that, but there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way, guys. There's got to be a way. So we'll see if we can get Golden Blue Dude on game day. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be great. But as is, they are going to Morgantown, or not Morgantown, the Backyard Brawl. So they're going to make a little bit of a fuss of it. So, I like that. At least they got that going. Quick reminder before we go any further, please hit the like button. That helps the video a lot, tremendously. When you hit that like button, it helps this video hit the YouTube algorithm. And whenever it starts hitting that YouTube algorithm, it gets suggested more and more people click on it, and boom, your audience gets bigger. Now, if you have a question for me, you want to ask me, or you just want me to read a comment specifically or address something, or you want to make fun of me, troll, whatever, super chat is the best way to do it. That is the $ down on your bottom right-hand corner. Any donation is appreciated here at Golden Blue Dude. But anything you put in that super chat, I will put on the screen. I will read it. If it's a question, I will answer it to the best of my ability. If it's just a comment that you want me to read, I'll read it. If it's something that needs to be addressed, I'll address it. If you want me to read something that makes fun of myself or the channel, that's how you get me to do it. Super chat right there. So keep that in mind. And, of course, as usual, it's becoming a routine. I forgot to put the StreamYard link in there. I'm just going to call it part of the stream because it's just become a routine. I forget to put it in before I even start. So let's try to get that in there real quick. Hopefully today's code isn't that ridiculous, so it won't take me that long. And it looks like it's an easier one, so I'm pretty happy about that. In fact, I think I have it down. Let's see. Make sure. Yep, that'll work. There is the link. So that's how we do call-ins here. I used to have a number, and I had to pay extra for it, but we are getting rid of that. Save a little bit of money there. And so if you want to call in, you just hit the link right there, StreamYard. You don't have to show your face on camera. That's fine. Just turn your camera off. Just whenever you get in the back room, show your face real quick so I know you're not some weirdo or whatever. And then you can turn it off, and I'll put you on, however you want to do it. So it's basically the same thing as calling in. It's just over the internet. That's all. No big deal. Nothing to be nervous about. Nothing to worry about or anything like that. So, yeah, game day going to Morgan. Keep saying Morgantown. It's not freaking Morgantown. The opposite of Morgantown. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for the Backyard Brawl. It's not Heinz Field anymore. It's some weird name that I forgot. Not really going to try. But it's at Heinz Field. I'm pretty excited. I'm going. Me and my brother bought a nice little package deal. So we're going to have our little group. I know Talkus Pitt has some tickets right there, so we might have to figure something out. Maybe he can swap some and then just come with our group. I don't know. But we will definitely figure it out. We will definitely figure it out. We're about to hit, guys. We're about to hit 9,000 subscribers. We might be able to hit 10,000 by the beginning of the season. Right now, we are at 8,854. So we are only 146 subscribers away from 9,000. So if you're not a Golden Blue Dude subscriber, consider hitting that button. Hey, if you don't like it, you can always unsubscribe, but we're trying to get to 9,000 real quick, and we'll have a very small window of getting to 10,000 before the season. But if we can have another mini boom, we can do it. John Marzula, thank you for the $4.99 donation. He says, I'm a Pitt guy, but know plenty of West Virginia fans. Yeah, that goes back and forth on that one. That's a real thing. Do you like being in the Big 12? It feels like the ACC would be a great fit. I don't like being in the Big 12, but I will say this. If the Big 12 expanded and got teams out of the East and got Pitt, has to be one of them, Virginia Tech has to be another one, and Louisville, I won't back off those three. They need to get Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Louisville, right? And then you could throw in a Memphis or a Syracuse or something like that. But if they don't do that, then yeah, we got to get out of there, because it's just the travels, and people don't understand. It's not just football; it's all sports. All sports have to do that traveling, and it's just been rough. And I do think it affects the mentality because of those road trips, and you don't have any rivalries. I mean, Texas is probably the closest thing that West Virginia has to a rivalry. Don't get me wrong. I love playing Texas. Wrong way. Horns down. Love that. But this backyard brawl is a big thing coming up, and it needs to happen every year. So how would you feel about the Big 12 reaching out east and grabbing up some West Virginia rivals to make it more tolerable, at least, for West Virginia staying in the Big 12?
I think it's necessary. Right now, it's just not on the table. Right now the action's in the Pac-12, but I think we've got a good commissioner. I think he's looking ahead at the reality that we need to strengthen the East and be selective in the West. I just wanted to jump on. I got to jump off real quick. And hi, Mr. Alabama. I see you there.
Hey, how we doing?
Real quick, I just wanted to say I've got a couple of friends out in the Phoenix area that are well connected in the Arizona schools, which, by the way, there's a lot of crossover in the boards and everything and the leadership in those schools. But anyway, he just informed me that his sources, and he won't tell me who, are saying that one or both of the Arizona schools are going to announce either today or tomorrow that they're joining the Big 12.
That's exactly what this show is about right there. From what I'm hearing, it's Arizona and Colorado for the first two, and then probably a next wave bringing in Arizona State and Utah. But for now, literally Arizona and Colorado are about to put their
official request,
their official request into the Big 12.
Yeah.
Colorado was leaked last night.
Yeah.
That they voted on it yesterday, and they're going to petition.
Well, the other thing that I thought was interesting is that there's a chance that the Big 12 will kind of slow play the acceptance, which I think is kind of crazy, but at the same time, could be smart. I mean, they might. So in other words, the word I heard was they might take Arizona and say that they are, they did an evaluation. They said Arizona, yes. They're going to evaluate Colorado and basically slow play it to see if they can really hype up the panic.
They're trying to make it seem, I don't want to word this the wrong way. They're trying to make it seem more important than what it actually is. And I'm not saying it's not important, but they're trying to make it seem even more important. Hey, you're not guaranteed a spot in the Big 12. We want the best brand, so we'll give you a look, but we're not giving any guarantees.
that was the other part, was that they're going to leak out that they are going to cap it at 4, maybe 5 max. In which, if you consider Oregon and Washington and the 4 corners, then somebody is getting left out. So they're trying to stir that panic up. But anyway, I just wanted to jump on and say that. And yeah, it looks like it might happen before the weekend, and
Yep.
That'll be an interesting media day next week.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Yeah, y'all have a good one. I'll catch you later.
Have a good day.
Well, I think all of this is, I don't want to use the term power play, but the Big 12 is trying to draw in Oregon and Washington. That's what all this is about. They really want Oregon and Washington. And if you start picking off more teams from the Pac-12, that's going to put more pressure on the 2 biggest brands left in the Pac-12 to make a decision. And what I'm hearing is that they would probably choose between the ACC and the Big 12. Only if the Big Ten is an absolute no. That's who they really want to join. I mean, they've already sent in their applications. They were denied, whatnot. So that's their number one choice. But if not, then they're going to have a decision to make between. And they'll have to do it together. Whatever they decide, one can't go here and the other go there. They have to do it together.
Right. And what I was told was the Pac-12 held a meeting, I believe it was Tuesday. It was a Zoom call meeting. And Washington and Oregon told the Pac-12 that if they wanted to keep those 2 schools, they needed a bigger piece of the pie. So they were going to go, they wanted, twice as much as the other teams. Well, that pissed Colorado off, and that's why Colorado held their meeting yesterday. And now the ESPN and the ACC have been in talks with both Washington and Oregon. And I think it's going to come down to who offers Oregon and Washington first. Is it going to be the Big 12 or is it going to be the ACC? And I'm sorry, but I believe that if the Big 12 offers first, the ACC is going to be done.
No, that'd be a massive blow.
But I don't see ESPN losing Oregon and Washington. I just don't see that happening. I can't see them wanting those 2 teams to go to the Big 12.
Yeah. I don't know. And then, I mean, if I were Oregon State and Washington State and, the lower brands, I'd be checking out the Mountain West right about now, because I don't think the Pac-12, especially with hearing, that pretty much Arizona and Colorado is going to be a done deal. Like, they're going to the Big 12. Where they go after that, I don't know, but that's down to 8 teams. You get 2 more, that's down to 6 teams. You're running out of time. You need to make decisions before your back is against the wall.
But does Stanford and Cal and Washington State say, look, we think we got big enough brands with Stanford at least. What if we go ahead and add Boise State and San Diego State? That'll get us to 6. We feel that we're better than the Mountain West, and we have the Mountain West come to us instead of us go to them.
But they don't have the numbers. I don't see that. In order for that plan to work, I would think that there would have to be at minimum 6 teams left. At minimum 6 teams left. If it goes down to 4, then they don't have the numbers. Like, okay, what's your leverage as far as a TV deal? Your 4 brands is better than our 12. Like, I've always considered, the Pac-12 head and shoulders above the Mountain West. But when you whittle it down to 4 teams, unless it's USC, Oregon, Washington, and UCLA together, those 4 brands together is still better than the Mountain West as a whole. But Washington State and Oregon State, I actually think they're Mountain West quality teams. No offense to Wazoo and Beaver fans. No offense to you guys, but, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, even the size of your stadiums, right around 40,000. I think actually under 40,000. So, yeah, I don't, especially with Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford maybe, but that's just one brand.
Yeah, because Cal would even be down with Washington and
Washington. Yeah.
I mean, Washington State and Oregon State. They're not. They've had a couple decent years in the 90s, but yeah, they're not.
Well, and their problem is their attitude too. That's been the Pac-12's problem the past decade is off the field. They act like they're better than everybody else. We are the highest of the high learning institutions, and they have pretty good numbers to back up their trash talk, whatever you want to call it. But you can't act like you're better than people, and then, well, why is the conference falling apart? It's because you kept blocking people, and you couldn't get a TV deal. In order to get a good TV deal, you need to be friendly and say, hey, bigger brands, come on. BYU, turn it down BYU. That was a huge, that was the biggest mistake that they had made right there. You put BYU in the Pac-12, and I think that changes a lot of things. Now, does it straight up prevent USC and UCLA leaving? Maybe not.
No, probably not.
But the remaining teams plus BYU are pretty comfortable about what they're, where they sit and about attracting other teams joining the Pac-12. I think that was it's like a pick six, right? Say your team is about to score a touchdown. You're on the 5-yard line. You're 5 yards away, first and goal. Pick six the other way. Not only do you not score, but the other team scores.
Yes,
that's what that decision was.
14 points.
Right.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 didn't pick up BYU, and the Big 12 did. And it was all in the Pac-12 because BYU did want to join the Pac-12. They did. The Pac-12 said, no, you're a religious school. You're not up to our academic standards. See you later. And now they're paying the price.
But I do think that both the Big 12 and the ACC need to think of one thing, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. The thing that worked for the Pac-12 is they were the only ones in the 10 o'clock time frame.
Geography.
So is Iowa State willing to play a game a year or a couple games a year?
Not a couple. One.
But you're going to have to take your brands like Baylor, and you're going to have to make them play at the 10 o'clock. Or, Clemson, if they go to the ACC,
let me clear something up real quick. I saw this in the comment section. No, I was not saying that BYU would have saved or wouldn't have saved. Either way, the Pac-12. What I'm saying is it was a double whammy on the Pac-12. They didn't pick them up. BYU is an international brand. It's a strong brand. They didn't pick them up. The Big 12 did. So it's literally like a pick six. You miss out on your touchdown and you give the other conference a touchdown. Would it have saved the Pac-12? I don't know. Would it have kept USC and UCLA from going to the Big Ten? Probably not. But the Pac-12 would be in a better position, even with UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten, if you add BYU into the mix. It would have made them stronger and more likely to get a better TV deal. Not just that, but attracting the highest brands out of the Mountain West, like your Boise State, your San Diego State, whoever, Nevada, Utah State. But now Boise State, they were high on the list for the Big 12. Pac-12 wasn't really a choice, but Pac-12's now completely off the board for Boise State, in my opinion. And because of the fall of the Pac-12, now they're on the lower part of the list for the Big 12. So that Boise State and Memphis are the two teams that suffered the most by the Pac-12 losing USC and UCLA. Vanity Rose, thank you for the $20 donation, says Stanford, California, Oregon State, Washington State, and Utah. And like the man said, add San Diego State, Boise State. I'll bet Fresno State. I keep forgetting about Fresno State. That's a good brand. And Utah State will fall in. You can still call it the Pac. I agree with that. What we were talking about is if it was whittled down to Washington State, Oregon State, Cal, and Stanford. So take Utah off the board because a lot of people are saying it's going to be Colorado and Arizona off the bat, and then maybe at the end of the 2022 college football season, then it's Utah and Arizona State. So the four brands, Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, Washington State, I don't think they have enough clout to pull big moves like that. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Now, and what happens to Arizona and Arizona State if they
Right.
go to the Big 12? Now they're not playing in California. How does that hurt their recruiting?
I mean, how does it really help their recruiting?
Well, but I mean, they do get California kids now. I mean,
yeah, but at the same time, it opens up Texas. You're
Yeah.
swapping out California for Texas, so it's not a total loss. And I think they have an actual chance of picking up kids versus going head to head against Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, and Houston. Now you're not going to get the kids that are thinking about Texas or Texas A&M, but that's always been like that. But in the state of California, you're going up against USC, UCLA, Cal, and Stanford. So it's almost an even swap. Not quite, but pretty close, in my opinion. And who knows? Maybe in the future, the Big 12 can grab a Stanford and you get that back. I don't know.
Or, yeah, I think they would be smart to grab Stanford. I know a lot of people are against Stanford. I'm high on Stanford just because, they win a lot.
Right.
Not in football. They've had good years under Harbaugh, but they do win a lot, and they do bring money, and they do have fans all over the country.
Yes. They're a decent brand, and their connection with Notre Dame really helps them as well, in my opinion.
Yeah,
maybe
that
it gives
helps them
you
a lot.
maybe it gives you a better shot of grabbing Notre Dame.
Exactly.
I'm working on putting the link back into the description if you're hearing a lot of clicking out there. The good news is that the code to the link is a lot easier today, so I can do it a lot faster.
I did want to mention also, I sent this to you earlier. I think you got to see it, but the NCAA announced today that they want to change the transfer rule, that now you don't have to set a year if you've already transferred one. It's unlimited transferring, and you can play right away.
Honestly, I'm torn on that one because of if the NIL thing didn't exist, then I would be raising hell over it. But if you put the NIL in effect, I mean, Spencer Rattler's a good example. Like, okay, we'll give you this NIL deal, but only if you're at Oklahoma. Well, he gets cut and he has to transfer, and then that deal goes away. He transfers to South Carolina, right? Well, you get a deal here if you stay at South Carolina. Well, it happens again, or a coaching change, and he has to transfer again. He can't. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if you take out the NIL thing, then you're like, yeah, you're keeping kids from bouncing all around. But if you insert the NIL, then I think it actually makes sense. I think it actually goes hand in hand with the NIL to make sure that no matter where they go, even if they end up in a bad situation, they could get an NIL deal somewhere else as well.
The problem I have with the transfer is I think too many times kids use it without fully thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, their coach yells at them today, or they get in trouble, well, hell with it, I'm going to go. Or, like that A.G. Hall from Alabama.
Yeah.
He decided he was mad at Alabama, so I'm going to Texas. And he hyped up Texas for a month and a half, and now he's not even at Texas. I mean, I believe in the transfer portal. If you sign with Alabama and Nick Saban leaves tomorrow, well, you came to Alabama for Nick Saban.
Right.
You want to go?
Right.
I'm all for that, but just to leave, I'm not a fan of that.
Maybe they should put in stipulations in. How about that?
Yeah,
stipulations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think the NIL needs to be changed, that if you sign an NIL with the school, you should have to stay with that school at least, 2 years.
However long the deal is. If it's
Yep.
a 2-year deal, if it's a 2-year NIL deal, then you have to stay 2 years. If you bounce within a year, then the rest of it's voided. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's how they could actually keep kids at a school longer. Say, hey, this is a 2-year deal. If you leave, then that second year you lose it.
Or you could say you have to pay back the first year.
Oh, man.
If you signed a 2-year and you leave early, you have to pay back the first year. That would really stop it.
Breach of contract. There's a case there.
Yeah.
There is a case there. I like it too. Because if you're going to, it's like a two-way street, you know, if you're going to open it up to where they can transfer and not have to sit out a year or whatever, well, then you need to open up the other lane. And, okay, well, if you do, you gotta pay back the NIL thing. That's, I mean, it's fair. I think it's fair. A lot of people would probably disagree with me on that, but I mean, that's basically a contract and you're breaking it. So, I mean, that's one of the penalties for, you know, breaking a contract. It is what it is. That's legal talk right there. I don't know.
There's another side to this transfer portal nobody has ever mentioned, and I hate to bring it up because Alabama does it. Nick Saban gets rid of players in the transfer portal because we oversign our classes. You know what I mean? Alabama still has 2 more players that have to go by before August 1st. We're setting at 87 scholarships, and we are only allowed 85 come August 1st. So 2 people are going to have to go bye-bye.
Well, that was like the situation at West Virginia where they realized that Jarrett Daggy was not working out very well, and nobody was mean to anybody. It was just a mutual decision. Daggy's like, yeah, it's what's best for me, and West Virginia's like, yeah, it's what's best for us too. So that's the same thing that goes on at Alabama. They're like, hey, 2 spots, you're lowest on the totem pole. We wish you nothing but the best. We know we recruited you, but your value is high. You'll have your pick of teams. Go take some visits now while there's a little bit more time. David Cummings, thank you for the $5 donation, says, the man is talking about not thinking, and they transfer on a whim. Look at Emmett Matthews at West Virginia, talking about basketball. Only on the basketball side, he left, now he's back. Yeah, exactly. That's one thing that people – that's a good point. A lot of people forget that these are young people. I mean, yes, technically they're adults, and yes, their brains have recently fully developed, but they're still very impressionable. And the guy that he's talking about, Emmett Matthews Jr., he transferred to Washington, thought that there were greener pastures over there, found out not even close, and he's back, and now he's regretting transferring to Washington because he wasted a year of his eligibility.
Well, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but how many people are in the basketball transfer portal right now that's been in there for over a year?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
You know what I mean? And it happens in football, too.
Yeah, it's worse in basketball.
And you're not.
Yeah, it's definitely way worse in basketball. And it happens to West Virginia every year. We almost have to replace our starting 5 every year. It's crazy.
And that sucks. I mean, that's just nonsense, you know.
What's going on, Joey?
Hey, what's going on? I'm sorry, I got here a bit late.
We're hearing we're hearing that the Big 12 is about to make a move with Arizona and Colorado, possibly before the weekend.
Yeah, I think they'll make the application. I think that the announcement will hold off until the new commissioner takes over on the 1st.
Right. Yeah.
They do.
I think that's smart because I do think that it's his accomplishment, so they should wait till he's the commissioner so he gets the credit. I know that's a little I don't know, not immature, whatever, but I think that's fair.
Yeah, getting the Denver market and the Phoenix market will be huge. You know, Arizona State and Utah don't bring a lot as far as moving the needle. It would stay the same with them. So it looks like each conference is just like doing 2 at a time, except for the Big 12. Their first move was taking 4, but pretty much had to replace Oklahoma and Texas and keep us a little bit relevant.
Hey, check this out, Joey. Check this out, Joey. So our favorite guy, Brad Smith, the voice of Motown, right? He just put out this, I think it's a tweet, or it might be on Facebook, but here's how he titled it. He said, just in, West Virginia recruiting the #1 player in the nation, and it appears his mom might have a bit of a crush on Bob Huggins. Then under that, the subtitle was West Virginia pushing hard for top-ranked recruit.
Is it a basketball recruit?
Yeah, but the thing that makes me raise my eyebrow on that is West Virginia always pushes hard for top ranked recruits. It's not like we always, well, no, might as well not even go after them. We're going to go after these, middle tier to lower tier players. So it's just weird that he puts first. It looks like West Virginia is going to get the number one player in the nation. Come to find out, it's just they're recruiting him hard, just like they do every year. I don't know. It just that annoys me.
Yeah.
But I get it. It helps them get clicks and stuff like that. And sometimes people don't like the way that I title my videos or whatever. But I try to make sure that, I talk about what's in my titles no matter what. And it's not one
It's not
thing.
clickbait.
Yeah, exactly. That's why people try to call me clickbait and stuff. And I'm like, you're not understanding what that means.
I think they're calling.
I get why they say it. I understand why they say it. It's just, it makes me feel like they think that I title my video one thing, but talk about something completely different, and that's just not true.
I think what it is, they think that you're laying out what's going to happen when you're really just laying out different scenarios.
Right.
We can. I think it's great because a lot of us don't think about certain scenarios that you lay out. And some of us might have something different in mind, and that's fine. That's when we can come on here and talk about it. So I think that's what they get upset about, is that you come up with some different scenarios that could happen that they don't think is feasible, so they call you clickbait.
I wanted to put this up there real quick. I don't usually put up regular comments, but I like this one. Brownie Talk Sports Network says, clickbait is fine unless if you lie. I would agree with that.
Yep.
I would agree with that. 100%.
Even if you got to click 50 times to finally get to what they were saying.
Yes. Hold on. David Cummings, thank you for the $5 donation, says that kid is out of Maine and he's in the 2025 class. No chance we get him. Exactly. And it's not like, this is the 2022 or 2023 class and we're closing in on him. No, he's 2025 and we're probably not going to get him. But hey, it's a nice story, whatever. But the clickbait thing is straight up lying. Yes. And a lot of people say that to me and I'm like, then you're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm not saying this is going to happen. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, these are all the possibilities. And then I leave it up to the viewers to decide which one they think is the most plausible. I think that's a part of journalism. I really do. And I don't call myself a journalist by any means. I'm a YouTuber 100%. But, I mean, even in the news, they do stuff like that. They don't know what's going to happen. So they say, well, it could turn out this way, or that way. And it's not that they're lying. It's just they're trying to get your interest and make you think, what if that did happen? Something like that.
What kills me is they'll say, yeah, what kills me is they'll say, well, that's because everything he says is just BS. It's crazy. It's off the wall. And I'm like, but how would you even know that if you didn't watch the video?
Yeah.
So you're watching the videos. What's your complaint? If you don't like what the hell he does, quit watching the video. It's that simple. I mean, I don't know why they want to complain about it. I think that speculation is fine. I think that the scenarios you lay out, while not all of them are maybe even possible to happen, or feasible to happen. They're possible. Anything's possible. Maybe not feasible to happen. It's still a scenario that we don't know where it's going to land and what's going to happen. So, that's how I feel about it. There's different scenarios. I've got one. Jeff has one. Jeff Webster, I'm talking about. Jeff Grimm has one. You have one. Right. Everybody has a different scenario. Probably none of us are right.
And people aren't aware how much they themselves speculate. I'm just putting my thoughts into a video. If the normal person that doesn't think about how much they speculate, wake up the next day and start trying to be aware of when you're speculating. You will catch yourself speculating most of the day. You're a human being. You're trying to figure out what's going to happen next. Job situation, relationship situation, sibling situation. It's just a part of life. What I do is I put my thoughts, what I'm trying to figure out. Hey, that can happen, and what would happen if that happened? And I put it on a video. That's how my brain works.
Well, and the other thing people don't look at, and this is how I look at you and I look at other people. You started GBD and you wanted to be Mountaineers. Unfortunately, the Mountaineers will not pay the bills. You have to expand. Your job is to entertain me. You're going to keep me as a subscriber by entertaining me. So you have to keep doing all these videos on all these different schools and all these to get new subscribers and keep people entertained.
Right.
That is your job. You're, like you said, you're not a newsman. You're not a reporter. You're not sitting here to tell us all the facts. I come to watch you because you're entertaining. And and that's what they have to understand.
And another thing they don't understand is it is not only possible, but extremely likely that sources can be wrong. Oh, your sources said this. It didn't happen, so you're lying. You really don't have sources. I can't help that what they told me was wrong. So sources,
and honestly, they wasn't even wrong.
Doesn't mean they're going to be 100% right. That's not how it works.
And it's not that they were wrong, because at that time they believed that.
Right.
Things change every day. The Big 12 is dead. Now the Pac-12, things changing every day. So what they told you 2 weeks ago isn't the same as what they're telling you today, because things change.
Right.
Yeah. And another thing too, I get really frustrated with this, because like if you read something in a newspaper and it's something that maybe is just hidden on page 7 of the newspaper, and you pick up on it and you report on it, and you come on a video, and you might say sources are saying that I have multiple sources, because maybe you read it in 2 or 3 places. I have multiple sources saying, hey, this might happen. That don't mean that somebody's actually came and told you. It just means you've read it, you've seen it on ESPN, you've seen it on Fox. That's a source too. People think that it just means that people get the word source all mixed up. And they think that it means that somebody actually called and told you or met you in person and said, hey, this is what happened. And they want you to name sources. Well, if you can't name a source, because maybe you read it in a newspaper that you don't normally read. Maybe you don't know the name of the newspaper. Maybe that's the reason you can't name a source. They don't understand that.
And maybe that source is speculating, but it's still a source.
Right.
Well, see, and ESPN last year had me believing that Aaron Rodgers was leaving Green Bay and he was going to be traded on draft day. And I watched the whole draft and he wasn't traded.
And guess what?
Let me put this on the board.
Him that.
Yeah, exactly. Let me put this on the board. The reason I put this on the board is Joey is on with me. Joey knows the sources that I can't tell. I think there's 3 of them, the big ones. So the only person that I've shared who my big sources on the inside are Joey. So he knows for a fact that it's not my grandma. It's not my, brother-in-law by marriage or anything like that. And the thing is, you don't want to burn bridges either, because if you say who they are, they're like, hey, I told you not to say my name. They're not going to talk to you anymore.
Yeah. And also,
I have a source the fact that Notre Dame.
Right.
But I don't use him.
Said, right.
Because if I try to use him, then you'll know who he is, and I don't want to burn that bridge.
Right, exactly.
And I have a lot of sources and a lot of connections with West Virginia University. Chris knows this.
Joey, my gosh.
Most everybody knows this. I have a lot. It doesn't mean that they're going to tell me anything. And if they do, it doesn't mean I'm going to share it with Golden Blue Dude. It just means that, hey, if there's something there that's a great nugget that's going to happen, hey, I might share it with him. But it could always change. It could always change.
Exactly right. All right, somebody asked for the link real quick, so I'm gonna put that in real quick. Give me 1 second.
Because, like you said, Joey, we all know that Colorado's going to the Big 12, right?
Right.
But if the Big 10 calls them tonight and says, "Hey, we want you," guess what? They're going
to
the Big 10.
They ain't coming to the Big 12.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't care.
There's stuff that can happen that can change a fact. People are like, facts don't change. Well, it depends on how you look at it. Like, okay, Arizona and Colorado are putting in their application. It is a fact that they are joining the Big 12 as of right now. But if the Big Ten or the SEC pulled a crazy move that nobody saw coming and say, no, we want you, they would withdraw those applications and they would join either the Big Ten or the SEC. So that fact would no longer be true, and it would turn into a different fact.
Exactly. But the problem is a lot of people can't handle change.
Oh yeah, that's sorry, I forgot to put the .com. Yeah, that's that, and I think that's what people get mad at the most, because this is a stressful situation, and they want to know exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. I wish that I could tell the future like that, but I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. If it changes, it changes.
Right, and I feel sorry for a lot of. I feel sorry for the Pac-12. You know, I mean, I feel sorry for Washington State and Oregon State. Their ride is done. You know, they're not going to get the big money. I feel sorry for if the ACC wins. You know, I lived 20 miles from Ames, Iowa for a while. I feel sorry for Iowa State. You know, and you just spoke about Boise State. What are they going to do with their facilities now? They just planned on all these massive upgrades because they're going to the Big 12. So now is that all on hold? Have they spent money they don't really have? You know what I mean?
And Memphis, they straight up, they're funneling in what, 60 to 100 million? No, 200 million. What was the number on that?
It was in the 100.
Okay, I think it was 200 million into the Liberty Bowl, which is their football stadium, in hopes of joining a power conference, and it put them high on the list. But now that the Pac-12 is falling apart, and teams from the ACC might be bumped up to the SEC, they kind of fell down the list. Now they're like, should we even do this now? Because facts changed. They based their decision on the facts that were true on that day. Now those facts have changed. They might have to change their decision because the facts aren't the same.
But I don't feel sorry for Memphis, because Memphis was asked to join the Big 12 and they said not at this time. They wanted to build some stuff. So that's on them. They could have been one of the first four in. I don't know who was going to be left out, but they had that chance.
Yeah, Memphis is one of those weird brands where they have a huge backer in FedEx. They have some money. They have some good boosters, and they have a decent TV market. It's just they're not good at making decisions. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the president, the higher-ups, the athletic director. I don't know. They're just not good at making decisions, and it's usually reactive decisions. All right, well, the Big 12 took Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, and Houston. I guess we got to do something if we want to move on up. Well, if you would have done it 5 years ago, you would have been in that group. I guarantee it. Memphis probably would have been taking over UCF. UCF built a new stadium, the Bounce House, with footers in, capable of expanding to 68,500, and Memphis did nothing. Liberty Bowl dilapidated, out of date. I mean, it's got decent capacity with 60,000, but it's hardly ever filled. And the football product has actually been good. So it's not their fault, the team's fault. They've actually been a pretty decent group of 5 team. It's just they didn't feel the need to put any money into that football stadium. And, UCF was taking over Memphis because of that fact right there.
Exactly. And then you can look at Oregon. Mm-hmm. Oregon right now is on the outside looking in, and they have probably –
it's crazy.
A top 5 facility with what Nike has done for them. You know, you look at their facilities and it's a top 5, top 10 minimum. And they're on the outside looking in, even with Nike's money.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to support the show and send a comment or a question, Super Chat's the best way to do it. Is the $ down on the bottom right. Anything you type in the Super Chat, I will put on the screen. I will address the question. I'll read it, and we'll talk about it. And you can always support through PayPal. I can't put the PayPal message on the board, but I keep up with my PayPal on my phone. So if you want to do it through PayPal, I can read it off my phone if you want to do it that way.
Besides you reporting the rumor, I actually was reading. I can't remember where, but they were talking about what you were talking about in your video from earlier today about the Big Ten saying if they don't get all the California teams, they're not going to bring in USC and UCLA into the conference.
Well, that's what they're trying. The problem is, well, two of the schools are private, Stanford and USC. But, however, UCLA is a part of the deal, and they aren't a private school. That's the one thing that made me raise the eyebrow about that situation. Is could the state of California force UCLA to hold back, and then that screws up the Big Ten's plan? But all that, honestly, they need to do that. Think about this, guys. The two private schools, right? USC, Stanford. State of California steps in and says, sorry, UCLA, you can't go. Board of Regents says, Stanford can fill that place. And that's two rivalries for Notre Dame going to the Big Ten. So that could actually be a blessing. Now, whether it actually happens or not, I don't know. But I'm saying if that were to happen, that could actually be a blessing for the Big Ten. You could have another main attraction to try to get Notre Dame.
Or the worst case scenario, they get Oregon.
That's not a bad scenario, is it?
Yeah,
think about that. Worst case scenario, Oregon. Dadgummit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, can I say one thing real quick? Everybody in the chat needs to go to Patreon page and sign up for Patreon. For less than $5 a month, you're going to get a chance to win some real money this year doing college football score predictions.
Yeah, and on top of that, all the Patreons will get to vote. We'll get to vote on the live stream that we're going to do. Whatever game gets the most votes from the Patreons, and the Patreons will get to watch the game with me live. And on Saturday, I know I haven't done a Patreon live in a while. It's been super, super busy. But on Saturday, I'm actually going to the Slob softball game, and I'm going to do a Patreon-only live show at the Slob baseball game. So that's going to be pretty fun. You'll see all your favorite YouTubers playing softball. You'll see us at our weakest moments whenever we're vulnerable.
Oh,
yeah.
I have a question. When you agreed to do this softball game, were you sober?
Yes.
Because
they actually have me in right field, and I could actually play. I could play shortstop, second, first, and any outfield. I can't do third, and definitely not a pitcher. And my knees won't let me do catcher. So they put me in. I think it's right field. I'm good with that.
Yeah. No, and back for me as a Hurricanes fan, let's say the ACC can't renegotiate. Honestly, I would prefer going to the Big 12 than the SEC then, in my honest opinion. I don't care. I do not. I don't want to deal with the BS childish complaints that the SEC is leveling at Miami, saying we're going to destroy your recruiting when you're bringing in Texas, which is hypocritical at the highest level. You're bringing Texas, who has the same recruiting base as Miami, even a lot bigger, and you don't want to bring in Miami? I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather go to the Big 12.
Honestly, like if geographics are out of the book, I think the Big 12 would be a great fit for Miami. I think Miami would have an easier path to the playoffs. I think, now that UCF is part of the Big 12, you have a nice little budding rivalry there. If I were Miami Hurricane fans and you end up in the Big 12, I would actually almost breathe a sigh of relief, because think about it. Yes, Miami going to the SEC, you get all the money and the recruiting advantages, but you still have to play Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss. Chances of Miami being able to rebound and get back to the U sooner rather than later, joining the SEC, not as high. I'm not saying impossible, because Miami is a strong brand, but not as high as their chances in the Big 12, for sure.
I just put the Patreon link in the chat.
Yeah, and I don't care. For me, I don't care about Florida. I'm worried more about Georgia and Alabama. We can destroy Florida anytime we want. Honestly.
Yeah. But it would still be a gauntlet.
Yeah, with G5 Billy at the helm, I don't really trust anything that's happening at Florida.
Right, exactly.
But see, I
And
make a
folks,
lot of
they
Miami.
totally disrespect you.
I make a lot of Miami fans mad, but I truly believe the Big Ten is where it's at. You're going to get the most money. You're going to get the academic prestige. But who in the Big Ten is going to scare you? With the recruits you get, you worry about Ohio State.
That's it. Ohio State.
And Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan to an extent, but, you know.
Yesterday I talked about how ESPN always hopes that Ohio State gets into the playoffs. That's why before every year they hype them up, acting like they're getting to the national championship every year, because Ohio State is a big-time moneymaker. They get a lot of recruits. And whenever the thing where I found out that College Game Day was going to the Backyard Brawl, I decided to look up, all the locations that Game Day has been to. Number one location. Can you take a wild guess?
Columbus.
Based on what I've been talking about.
Columbus.
By a lot.
Yep.
It's not even close.
No.
They love the Buckeyes. So it probably really grinds their gears that the Big Ten has a TV deal through Fox. They really, really don't like that, because whenever Ohio State makes the playoffs in the national championship, Ohio State makes a crap ton of money for ESPN.
Yeah.
Because ESPN, even though Fox owns the TV deals for the regular season, ESPN still owns the rights for the playoffs and the national championship. So that it's almost like, why would ESPN want to hype up Ohio State whenever they make money for Fox? Well, if they make the playoffs and the national championship, they're going to make a lot of money for ESPN as well.
Yep.
And I said this, the way Miami's recruiting for me in terms of how they're building their defensive and offensive line, for me, I feel it fits better in the Big Ten and stuff than the SEC. Do you agree, Jeff?
I do. And what I see with Miami and the Big Ten, you're the Florida State and the old ACC. You got SEC talent playing a lower, and I don't want to say the Big Ten is lower, but the ball that the Big Ten plays and the ball that the SEC plays is totally different.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And the talent in the Big Ten is not there. I'm not saying that. Look at the University of Iowa. Somehow they always have a top 5 or top 10 lines. How is that possible? They're lucky to get 3 stars, but their offensive line and their defensive lines are always strong.
Yes. I mean, they got Hakeem
because
Mesler,
development is the key. Development is the key. They Kurt Ferentz knows how to develop players.
Exactly.
Hey, Tony, let me ask you this. I always wondered this. Why in the world did Miami even hire Manny Diaz? I didn't understand that hire from the beginning. And even after, he didn't get off to a good start, they were still hyping him up. And I know y'all got the transfer king from Houston, but he never developed anybody. Why was he such a high buzz at Miami? I never bought into it.
You know why that is? His father's a big donor in the school. That's why he got the job.
Oh, my gosh. Well, you know what? That's fine and dandy, and they scratched his back, but it set Miami back a couple years because the dude just couldn't coach. I mean, look at the talent that Miami was getting under Manny Diaz, and he did worse than Mark Richt did. I mean, think about that. That's not good at Miami. That's why people are buzzing about Mario Cristobal at Miami. The pushback with Mario Cristobal is, well, look at what he did at Oregon. Oregon had all this talent, and well, actually not as much as you think. And if you go back and look at Oregon last year, they actually went into Columbus and beat Ohio State. It's just Utah was a bad matchup for Oregon. That was 2 of their losses. The first loss in the regular season on the road, and then the second loss in the Pac-12 championship. And the only unexcusable loss was the road trip to Stanford. I didn't understand that one at all. That was the only shouldn't have lost that one. The Utah matchups I can understand because if you look at defenses versus offense and vice versa, it was not a good matchup for Oregon. And in Ohio, they actually matched up much better than Ohio State. and going on the road to the Horseshoe and beat Ohio State, that's a big feather in Mario's cap, because now Miami has to go on the road to Texas A&M. They have a coach that took Oregon to the Horseshoe and beat Ohio State. He's not scared of those big atmospheres. And I think Texas A&M, I think that game is the key for Miami because, okay, let's say they lose, right? Well, I think they grab 2 losses if they lose to Texas A&M. I think they lose at A&M and at Clemson. But if they beat Texas A&M, they have that confidence as long as they don't pull a Stanford as far as losing a game they shouldn't, then they'll have the confidence that they can go in and beat Clemson as well. So I think that's a massive game for Miami, and a lot of people are like, Texas A&M recruits at a high level. That's a lot of talent. There's no way Miami can beat them. Yeah, but their coach is average. I mean, he went 8-4 with talent pretty much anywhere else that would almost guarantee you a 10-win season.
Well, and think about it like this. What Florida, what Texas player wants to play in Oregon when they could play at Miami?
Exactly. That's another thing.
Yeah,
Geographics is now in the favor of Mario Cristobal. Hey, let me get to this super chat real quick. Thank you, Vanity Rose, for your $5 donation. Says, imagine Ohio State, USC, Miami, and Notre Dame all in the Big Ten as your 4 horsemen. That's a problem for the SEC. I 100% agree. I didn't even think about that combo. That would be amazing.
Here's the problem with that. Ohio State all-time is 1-11 against the SEC. Notre Dame, they haven't been showing up in the playoffs. Miami, I will talk crap about them for about a year and a half until Cristobal has it turned around, and then I'll say that they would be on the same footing with us. And USC, I hope they get back to relevance because I'm old school and I believe that Notre Dame, USC, Nebraska, we need all of the blue bloods relevant to make this a fun sport.
Hey, Joey, what Mountaineer was that? What year?
Okay, I'm going to tell a story about that real quick. So that is Jonathan Kimball, who was a 2012-2013 Mountaineer. But the story behind this is I've got 2 of these. I'm going to send one to you. I got a neighbor that buys pallets from Amazon, like the pallets that are returns and whatever. These 2 cards were in one of the pallets. I have no idea how they ended up in there.
Wow.
But they were both in the pallet. And he gave them to me. And I'm going to send one to you. They're autographed, and it's actually a real autograph because you can see the ink bleed through. But I thought it was pretty neat that those were in Amazon pallets. But
nice.
Anyway,
that's cool.
I'm going to do that for a couple of reasons. I want to get your attention because I've got to run. I've actually made a commitment to another show last week that I would be on there as a guest tonight. So I've got to run. But hey, listen, one more time, we're on podcast now. So search for Golden Blue Dude on your podcast, whatever you use, Spotify, Apple, whatever. We are also working on Reddit to get Reddit going. That's going to be a Patreon perk. Reddit's going to end up being a Patreon perk. So if you're a Patreon member, especially, make sure you are on Reddit. Okay, guys, I'm going to jump off. Great show. We need some likes. We need some likes on this video, guys. See you later.
Bye, Joey.
Okay.
Bye, Joey. And Golden Blue Dude, actually, I have an idea. How about this? Let's say the Big 12 maybe isn't able to add more teams. Hypothetically, let's say they're not able to add the teams that you're talking about. How about Baylor going to the Big 10, following Miami and Notre Dame to the Big 10?
Big 10 will not take Baylor.
Not Baylor. Religious.
Not Baylor.
No.
The religion's going to kill Baylor.
Rule I've ever heard.
Notre Dame is the only school that gets exemptions from everything. Notre Dame would have been accepted in the Pac-12. They'll get accepted in the Big 10. And they don't have AAU status. Religion doesn't matter with them. But for whatever reason, everybody else gets that stipulation, and it's stupid. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, that's the stupidest rule ever. Like the Pac-12 had that. That's what hurt the Pac-12 from expanding too. They didn't want to bring in a BYU because it was a religious school and stuff like that. They didn't want to bring in Notre Dame. not Notre Dame. What was the other school? There was a Texas school that wanted to go to the Big Ten before. But
I know Texas wanted to go to the Pac-12.
Texas has tried twice to get to the Big Ten, and they've been told twice no.
I know
No,
Texas almost signed with the Pac-12 there for a minute too.
It was TCU.
Yeah.
TCU wanted to go to the Pac-12, but they couldn't because of the religious affiliation and stuff like that, which is kind of the stupidest thing. Like that's stupid rules. Baylor
don't play on Sundays, or not Baylor. BYU don't play on Sundays. That's what hurt them.
But I mean,
in basketball,
basketball is what's going to hurt you. Yeah. I was about, they could pull Notre Dame and join football only, or they could have joined football only in the Pac-12 or something like that. I mean, that's a big brand. I just think that was a bad
or how about
decision by the Pac-12 on that one.
How about,
like that,
how about the Red Raiders?
I mean, that's a big brand. I just think that was a bad. Hey, we got an echo on you, Captain Kenneth. Turn the show down on your phone because we had an echo.
How
about? Sorry about that.
There we go. We're good.
Hey, Kenneth.
How you doing, buddy?
How's it going?
Another day, another show, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been watching the show for a while, man, and I give you a lot of grief. I like to. I like. Yeah, but so to comment on what the fellow was talking about the religious affiliation and that being a stupid rule, I would disagree with that. I don't think it's a stupid rule. You guys are looking at it purely from a football perspective. And these are universities that exist to educate people. And whenever you're in a Pac-12 or SEC or Big Ten or whatever, it's more than just a league in which people play sports. These schools are connected, they're intertwined, they work with each other. They have systems. They have certain systems with their different graduate schools and things like that. Like down in the I'm a student at LSU, and they have team schools in the SEC. They have certain relationships, like with their medical school departments and things of all that nature. If you look into the Big Ten, they have like a fiber optic integration together. They share like library databases and things like that. It is not just about playing football or shooting a basketball into a hoop. So that's what people have to get into their mind. These are places of higher education, and yes, they like the the Pac-12 schools who are stand alone. Other than the Big Ten and the Pac-12, those two, those are well-known academic institutions and leagues. Like, people have a pride when they say, I graduated from a Big Ten school. That means something to them. You know what I mean?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So this notion
but Kenneth, what we're saying it's kind of unfair that they apply to that rule to every other religious school, but they don't apply it to Notre Dame. Is what we're saying.
Well, let me tell you something about Fair though. Fair is a place where they judge pigs. You know what I'm saying? Notre Dame's able to do that because they're Notre Dame. And as much as you hate Notre Dame, I don't really care for Notre Dame. I don't like them at all. But you have to understand that they have a place in college football. Like, they have it means something. That gold helmet means something. And plus, being backed by, they're Catholic, right? Or
they're Catholic.
Yeah.
So they're backed by the Roman Catholic Church. So, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. But like, is it unfair? Sure. But I mean, look here, Baylor, if you got a problem with that, and I think, Baylor is in a very good position, not so much as just the Baylor's because who their head coach is at the moment. But be Notre Dame. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Now that you brought that up, how is the Big 12 going to figure out BYU then? Like, okay, they've accepted BYU. We all know that there's basketball games on Sunday. That's going to be a scheduling nightmare. How are they going to work that out?
What about the basketball tournament? What about the softball?
Yeah.
What about
now we're starting to open up the can of worms, because I hadn't even thought about the basketball side, because football, I mean, it's played on Saturdays for the most part. You might have an opening game or maybe a bowl game on a Sunday or whatever, but that can be pushed a day or so. But basketball games, that's a whole different story, because they schedule 3-4 games in a week, and a lot of them fall on a Sunday. How are they going to figure that out?
I mean, I have no idea. I have no affiliation with BIU or the Big 12, but
yeah.
I mean, I would assume that it wouldn't be as difficult as we think, though. Like, given that you only really have to make that accommodation, for one school.
Right.
And I mean, I'm sure there'll be some trickiness to it, but I'm sure that that's something that they thought about. They didn't just, I'm sure that they considered that, before they made that move. But I mean, I guess, at that point you have to do something, because that move, that's really about survival, man.
Yeah.
Like,
they don't have a choice. They'll have to do something.
They had to do something. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Let me get to this super chat real quick. Thank you, Larry Pilgrim, for the $5 donation. Says requirements for Pac and Big Ten is AAU or Tier 1. Religion is not an exclusion, and Notre Dame is an academic institution. Very prestigious degrees come from Notre Dame. I agree with that, except for in the Pac-12, religion does play a factor. It's not the only factor. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it is one of the factors that kept BYU out of the Pac-12. Big Ten is a little more loose with that religion thing. I don't even know how big of a factor it is, but AAU is the big thing. And, of course, with Notre Dame, you can even look it up, because I did the other day. It was a couple of weeks ago. I looked up AAU status and who all has it, how firm is the Big Ten on it. And whenever I looked up the Big Ten page, very firm. The only exclusion, Notre Dame. I mean, it says it in plain wording. The only exclusion to this rule is Notre Dame. It is a fact. It's not me assuming. It's not me making a speculation. Notre Dame is exempt from that rule.
Is Miami an AAU school?
I think Miami is an AAU, actually.
I think they just got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're a private institution and we're not a bit. AAU has to. I thought AAU has to do with the amount of research you do and stuff like that. Didn't we say that in a previous stream? We looked it up and you said it had to do with the amount of research.
I thought
AAU is all research. It's all either medical research or agricultural research. That's where Iowa State was in. They were in with the agriculture.
Okay.
And
so
Iowa
you think
State
Miami
left
gets
the
with their
AAU.
medical research? You think Miami might be able to get in with their medical research, with what we do with trying to get a cure for paralysis and stuff like that? You think we might be able to get into the medical part of the Big Ten for our AAU status?
Yeah, that's where you would get your AAU, would be because you're medical. That's what Nebraska had. Nebraska lost theirs because in order for AAU, it has to be on your campus. And Nebraska's in Lincoln, and their school was actually in Omaha. So that's why they lost their status.
Yeah, I didn't think – I thought AAU had something to do with the land grants, because Larry Pilgrim was right in his comment right here. He says Tier 1 is research, not AAU. That's two different things. So I'm trying to clarify what AAU is. Tim, do you have any idea what AAU exactly is?
No, but this conversation is kind of, here's what I do know. I do know that, yeah, it has to do with your facilities and some small little quirky things. But if we're talking AAU, the whole point is being a research institution. And when you're talking about elite universities in this country, Notre Dame is a top 20 elite academic university in this country. Anybody would be happy to be associated with them. So BYU, not so much. I mean, I mean, this great school, but then also academically out of the football field, Notre Dame is just kind of has elite status of both. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the reason I brought up BYU for the Pac-12 is I understand the academic side, but I still think it was a decision that hurt them. because it did, I think BYU would have raised the value of the Pac-12 as far as getting a TV deal. That's why the Pac-12 isn't falling apart because of academics. Pac-12 is falling apart because of they don't have any value. And USC and UCLA knew that the Pac-12's TV deal wouldn't come even close to the Big Ten TV's deal. So I brought up BYU because I thought BYU would have added value to the Pac-12. Maybe not enough to keep USC or UCLA, but even after losing, those two California schools, if you add BYU to everybody else in the Pac-12 right now, I think they are in a better place to where they can negotiate a better TV deal. That's just my opinion, though.
Well, and you look at USC. If you're USC, you have to be pissed off because USC is a top 5, top 10 all-time football power.
Yeah.
And for 10 years, USC has been getting pennies on the dollar compared to the Big Ten and the SEC. And you take USC's pedigree, and I'll put it against Alabama. I mean, they're that damn good. And it's not fair that they're making pennies on the dollar compared to a Vandy.
The reason why BYU, a big chunk of the reason why BYU is currently in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is going to just swallow the Sunday scheduling conferences and problems with that, is because of the complete overrated, overhyped, overblown opinion so many people have of a weak program, otherwise known as Boise State. Boise State doesn't have the facilities. They have the non-football sports is nothing. Their academics are community college level. They did not fit in the Big 12, and BYU was an easier problem to deal with than to have to really lower some standards to go get Boise State. And I'm not hating on Boise State. I'm just saying they didn't even come close. They didn't even come close to making what the Big 12 is looking for.
JW, I'm not just agreeing with you. You're 100% correct. That's a fact, what you just stated. Boise State, I know, and it's because of their success on the football field that has made people think that, they have a great brand. They have a great following. They have a great fan base, which to a certain degree, yes, but they have terrible facilities. Their academics is not all that great. What TV market do they have? The Boise TV market? Okay. And, I mean, Boise State, and they're talking about putting all this money into not just their football stadium, but all of their facilities. But the money that they released, I think it's like $60 million or something. Like, what's that going to do? Hiring their capacity from like 36,000 to 40,000 just to meet Big 12 requirements. So what Boise State's trying to do is they're out there saying, hey, we want to reach your bottom level of what's required for us to get in, and that's what they're not trying to reach to the top. They're just trying to reach to what's acceptance. So I agree with you on that, JW. And they have got to put it in high gear if they want any chance of getting to a Power 5, especially with the Pac-12 falling apart. Before the Pac-12 falling apart, I would say that Boise State is one of the higher-ranked group of 5 teams besides the 4 that went to the Big 12. I would say Boise State, along with Memphis, probably had the best shot out of any other group of 5 teams to maybe get an invite to the Big 12. But now that the Pac-12's falling apart, they went back to the bottom of the list.
Can I jump in? I keep hearing that the Pac-12 is falling apart. USC left. UCLA wasn't doing anything. We look. This goes around a lot when it talks about the Pac-12 being disrespected. I can name 2 teams that aren't USC and UCLA that have made the college football playoffs. The Big 12, you guys don't have anybody except for the team that left that's ever made the playoffs. And I keep hearing this thing like, I mean, I get it, dude. I get it. The Big 12, guys are mad. Baylor's mad. Guys wanted to come to the Pac-12 and they're like, oh no, we don't want you. And now that USC, same thing happened to them. The Big 12 is like saying, yeah, now the shoe's on their foot. The point is that Oregon and Washington are great football programs. They just are. They fell on some hard times. We had some difficulties, but overall, you're looking at, if Peterson was still at Washington, would we be having this conversation right now? He just stepped down really quickly.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, Tim, but I was talking about the here and now, and the here and now, yes, USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Pac-12 is done, but what me, Jeff, Joey, and some other sources online have been hearing is that Colorado and Arizona will be joining the Big 12 in the next week. I don't know about the announcement or anything, but as far as them putting out their application and the Big 12 accepting, it's supposed to happen like rather quickly. And then the next phase after that is going to be Arizona State and Utah. And then Washington and Oregon is going to have to make a decision where, are you going to stay in the Pac-12 and try to get some teams from Mountain West? Or, is the Big Ten going to open up their doors again? Because that's where they want to go. They've already applied to the Big Ten, and the Big Ten turned them down. So if the Big Ten's a no-go, they would probably have a choice between the Big 12 and the ACC. But that was what I was referring to as far as the Pac-12 falling apart. Teams are jumping ship. Not that there's terrible teams in the Pac-12. It's just I don't know how much longer the Pac-12 is going to exist with all these teams bailing on the Pac-12.
And Tim, the reason I said the Pac-12 was having problems is because it's widely been reported last night and today that Washington and Oregon had a meeting. The Pac-12 had a meeting. And they said the only way they will stay in the Pac-12 is if they get a bigger share of the pie. They want more money. And that hurt Colorado and Arizona's feelings.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I'm not saying that the Pac-12 is, I think all the conferences besides the Big Ten and the SEC are in trouble. I think USC was lucky to get picked up by the Big Ten. Otherwise, we'd be in the same boat. I mean, this time a month ago, I was thinking, man, we're falling behind. I'm hearing all these huge billion-dollar contracts. I'm like, USC is just gonna, we're gonna be a G5, league as well, and we're gonna be. If you listen to the narrative for the last 3 years, well, you can't. Pac-12 sucks. The Pac-12 sucks. Pac-12 sucks.
I disagree.
But the fact is the Pac-12 sucks. But they've had teams in the top 10. I just don't get it. The Pac-12 as a conference has been really crappy the last 4 years. But I've watched college football long enough to know that it's cyclical. And the fact that USC and UCLA and Washington were all down at the same time made it look like a bad conference.
But I think it's two different arguments, Doug, because I actually agree with what you're saying because I wasn't saying the Pac-12 sucks. I was saying the Pac-12 is falling apart. They lost their two biggest brands. Now it's looking like Arizona and Colorado are going to be gone within the next week or so. And then the next phase after that will be Arizona State and Utah. Washington and Oregon will have to make a decision. But as far as like quality, they've been down, but I never thought the Pac-12 sucked. But I do think the Pac-12 made bad decisions that put themselves in the position that they're in right now. I think there could have been some better decisions made in the past to where they wouldn't even be in this, particular scenario. And I'm with you. I've been around long enough to where I know it's cyclical as well. I mean, I remember whenever USC, nobody could touch them. I mean, whenever Pete Carroll was at USC, they were the team. It was the conversation was like, who is USC going to play for the national championship this year? Before that, it was Nebraska. Whenever they were the big red machine, who's Nebraska going to play for the national championship now? Now we're in the cycle of Alabama pretty much every year. I mean, there's some years where they don't make it, but that's few and far between. But right now the conversation is, who is Alabama going to play in the national championship? That will cycle out and we'll enter into a new era. Yeah.
Again, that kind of reminded me of new era and thinking about the NIL. My buddy Jeff, you guys were talking about NIL. You guys keep using phrases like they have to pay back the NIL if they leave the school, and the NIL money, you should be there. You guys have to remember this. I know it's being abused, just like everything in college football for years. You can't pay the player to come to your school. Therefore, you can't hold them accountable if they leave. I keep hearing this stuff like, well, if they leave, then they got to pay back the school. And it's not about the school. The school, literally, it's written into the rules that you can't you cannot entice somebody to come there by giving them NIL. The idea is they're getting NIL because their name, image, and likeness, they can make money off themselves. Now, the NCAA paper tiger, and it will say, well, screw you guys. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Can we use the,
Here's my
use
thing.
the term? I don't know if this term even exists. But I'm going to say it. I'm going to make it up on the spot right now. Can we use the term reverse abusing and turn it around on them to where, it's being abused and players are being basically paid to play? Reverse abusing would be, well, if you leave, then you got to pay it back. Does that make sense?
Well, what's going to have to happen is that, so when you say getting paid, the schools are not paying players. Boosters are paying players, right?
Right.
It's really a gray area with me, because it's like, yeah, schools aren't paying players, but if you don't think that they aren't, the schools are the ones, the athletic directors, the coaches, they're the ones that's shaking the boosters' trees. You know what I mean? So the schools aren't paying for the players, but yeah, they kind of are at the same time. You know what I mean?
But the rule again, but I get you. But the rules,
they aren't playing them, but they're allowing it.
But let me say this before you say anything.
It's illegal.
When it comes to these, so like what happened with like Quinn Ewers in Texas, in Ohio State, that was a heist of a century. They say he got $1 million in boosted. So what's going to have to happen, and which I'm pretty sure has already happened with a lot of these boosters, is that they can write into their contract that, if the statement, you'll get X amount of money, if you at the university for X amount of years. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna have to go that way, because it's too much of a risk. Like you're gonna give a kid 5, 6, 7. You're hearing these crazy numbers, right? Like the Tennessee kid got $8 million. Like, it's too much of a risk to say I as a company am gonna give this kid $8 million and he might jet the next year.
But see, that's the way it needs to be, though. But see, hang on, though. But that's what I'm trying to say. That's how this thing's getting all. This is how this thing's getting all screwed up. Is because there are schools. They're saying, "Come to our school and we'll give you money funneled through this dude." And I mean, this. Everyone's gotten bags for years. Where I've always had problems when people get paid to be at a university. Paid to come to the university. These kids deserve to get paid. They shouldn't be eating at. They shouldn't be eating and starving. A lot of people making millions. But the fact is, it's just the fact that people are paying kids to come to a school. That's always been bad with me, and that's not what NIL is about.
So,
I think
Tim,
they need to
you're
look into
against
that.
the video.
I think they need to look into that. The reclassification thing, because I'm glad he brought up that Quinn Ewers thing, because he pulled off a genius move. I'm not even going to lie. You call it a heist, you can call it whatever. He pulled off a genius move. So they need to tighten up that reclassification thing.
But the problem I have is Texas A&M, and the video is out. Their coach was talking to recruits, and he pointed up in the stands that you look at those suites. If you come here, you will get money.
I've seen it. That's the
Guess
fact.
what?
That's
Yeah,
my
duh,
point.
though.
We're
Like,
gonna
I
have
hate to say it like
NIL.
that, but
We need
duh,
to punish that.
Yeah.
we all know that that's the case, though. Like,
But I think what he was saying is now there's actual proof. Like, we all knew it, and we all figured it was going on, but now there's an actual video out there with, the guy saying it. Like, can they still do nothing about that?
I mean, who's to enforce it though? Like
I don't
NCAA,
know.
who's gonna do it now? NCAA don't have no power.
Yeah.
I mean, we've
Well,
seen
then
what
the
they
thinking is
regulated to.
The NCAA needs protected. They need antitrust legislation passed so that
It's gonna have to go through,
the NCAA could be shielded from lawsuits from the players by an antitrust exemption, and thus they would gain their teeth back.
Yeah.
They're afraid to act now because they'll lose any court cases because they don't have antitrust protection. What Saban was saying, Saban was right about Texas A&M. They were cheating like hell. They had 2 5-stars in 3 years, and all of a sudden they've got 8 once the NIL comes around.
And that's why I thought it was hilarious that Texas is now in the SEC
comments,
because of that. They're going to tattletale on each other all the time now. You watch.
Saban's comments the other day were clear. He said, for decades, we strived and did everything we could, and we panicked over and we fretted over, and we had rules, and there were some violations of keeping the boosters out of recruiting. And now,
look,
now the
Jesus,
boosters.
Jeff, stop, please. Don't be so sanctimonious. Did you hear what Jimbo said? Did you hear what Jimbo said about Saban, man? Come on.
That's
Please,
what I said
Jeff,
earlier.
don't
They're
go
going to
there,
tell on
dude.
each other. It's not just one person.
Don't go that. Please don't do that. Please don't make it.
Let me stop the hater before he goes any further and embarrasses himself.
I'm not embarrassing anything, dude. It's
What
been well
Saban-
known.
what
And
Saban is
Jimbo
trying to
called
say
out
is-
Saban. He said, "What the hypocrisy of talking about paying for players to Saban?" He said, "Everyone knows, staff knows." He stopped just short of saying that he's witnessed it happen, man.
Everybody's doing it.
Bring it.
Okay.
Bring it.
Even
Saban's
Don't
been
you
there-
know Saban is
Alabama's been
tattletale,
buying
and that's why I
players,
said
really?
bringing in Texas
Saban's
to
been
the
there for-
SEC is going to be a
Saban's been
problem
there
because
for
they're all going to
15
tattletale on
years.
each
You don't
other.
have one credible case against him, not one.
Oh,
In
Jesus, that
15
doesn't
years.
mean anything, man.
Nobody
What are you
has
talking
Here's
about?
the
credible
deal.
case. There's
Here's
no
the deal.
cases.
I'm the Bama
Is
fan
anybody
on
being
here.
tried? Not that I've heard of. Nobody has.
Dude, I can't listen to Alabama say that they haven't bought players, dude. That's absurd, man.
I'm the biggest Bama fan in this group, and let me tell you what, Bama has paid players in the past. Bama has had boosters, even under Saban with recruits.
I'll even
None
say
of
this:
you-
West
none of
Virginia,
you-
West Virginia
nobody
is starting
in
to
this
figure out
stream-
how to not be up to that level, but they're starting to create their own groups to try to help and entice players. Everybody is doing it. But what we're seeing is the people that are used to being at the top, they're going to start tattletelling on the people underneath them. They're going to start tattletelling on the people underneath them. And then the people on the bottom, they're going to start tattletelling on the people on top. It's just going to be a bunch of back and forth.
All Saban's comments, all he was trying to say is, we need to hurry up and get guidelines in place. Wherever you put the guidelines, just put some guidelines in place so that we're all operating under the same set of rules. And then I'm going to whip you under the same set of rules.
Let me just
Yeah, I
ask
don't
him
think
straight up.
everyone's
Let me
playing
ask
under
you
the same
straight
set
up.
of
Hold on,
rules
hold
there,
on,
Jeff.
hold
That's
on,
what I'm
hold on,
saying.
Hold on. Let me ask him straight up. Do you think that Nick Saban is guilty of what he's accusing Jimbo Fisher, J-Dub?
No. But do I?
I think Saban was smart enough. I don't think there's a video out there. I don't think there's a video out there, but Saban has done. They've all done it. I don't care what program you are. Every program in the country has given money. Every program in the country has taken the rules and bent it just as far as you can bend it.
You got to get him out of here. That was too crazy, huh?
Y'all heard me give him a chance, right? Y'all heard me give him a chance.
Right? Here's the thing I feel with Nick. The reason Nick Saban is running around and whining, and look, I'm an LSU fan, right? Born and raised Baton Rouge, current LSU student. I mean, I hate Alabama more than anybody on the planet. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I like Saban as a coach and as a football coach. I do. So I'm not hating on Nick Saban. Nick Saban is the only reason he's whining about that is because he knows that he can't compete with Texas A&M and Texas when it comes to the mony game. He doesn't
can't
like
compete
that.
against the oil.
He doesn't like that. So when it comes to if a kid would look at a school like Texas or a school like Texas A&M versus looking at a school like Alabama, where do you think they would rather play, knowing that Alabama is just a pipeline to the NFL? But when it comes to that may be true, you're going to pick Alabama every time. But if they can offer you $8, $9, $10 million to come to their school, whoa. I mean, now it's a whole different conversation.
Because here's the other thing I'll bring up. Nick Saban wouldn't have said anything if they would have been number one in recruiting again. That's what it comes down to. If
Nick Saban had all money, you wouldn't heard anything from him.
All right, guys. I hate to get out of here, but I got some other stuff. I need to spend some time with my wife. She got off work. It's time to do my own life. So, last word time. All right. So, Jeff, your turn, buddy. Last word.
My last word would be this. I mentioned this to Tim last night after you had left. I think the best thing right now for college football is you take the Big Ten, the SEC, you go to 20, and then you either pick the ACC or the Big 12, you go to 20, and the other 70 to 80 teams, you're a Division II and you get your own playoffs. I think it's a win for the bottom 80.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. As usual, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I like your insight, man. You got good insight, even for an Alabama fan. Good job, buddy. Captain Kenneth, last word, buddy.
Like I said, I was thankful for coming on and everything like that. But I think I will say with this college football thing, I really hate that this realignment thing happened when it did, because I think with Lincoln Riley going to USC, I think that would have brought a whole lot of balance back to college football, because there's no reason Bryce Young should be the quarterback at Alabama, because if Pete Carroll was at USC, he'd be playing at USC. And
nice.
To get the whole college football is only going to be great when the whole country from coast to coast is invested. And right now that's not the case, because USC is bad. But I guarantee you, Lincoln Riley he's gonna make a splash at USC. And I just really hate that the realignment happened when it did, because I think this would have naturally balanced itself out with the talent and the recruiting. The Pac-12 was gonna rise because USC was gonna rise. But
1000% agree, man. Well said. I appreciate you coming on the show, buddy.
No problem. Thanks.
My man Tim, you get the last word.
Oh, I tried. I was muted. Kenneth's an LSU fan?
Yep.
Holy smokes. That was the most.
For some reason, I was
that was the kindest thing I've ever heard from LSU in all my years. Amazing. Thank you, Kenneth. No,
I agree with him too. He's right.
I do agree. That's why I said I think this Kleofkov guy who they came in, they brought in too late after Larry Smith tried to, ACC the Pac-12, with terrible leadership. I think things point. Who knows? I mean, we don't know what Riley's going to do, but things point towards his past success should be at least on par with Oklahoma when he comes to USC. So I think that I think we just ran up a little bit short, and it sucks because this is that string and in the sweater. I think the first string. I think we could have survived Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. That would have been a really big shift. But again, if Miami and USC and these other programs started doing what they used to do in the past, and it is cyclical. I mean, this sport's been cyclical. I know it's never been like this in the past, but I do believe that Kenneth was spot on, that maybe USC could have brought back some balance to the force. Who knows, right?
And I agree.
And to Jeff, I love your passion, Jeff Webster, but I want to leave on good terms here. I hear what you're saying. No one's caught Nick doing anything, but dude, I have heard so many accusations leveled towards Alabama. Some of it could be, believe me, being a USC fan, I know a lot of you get a lot of heat when you're on top. I get that. But to say that boosters currently are not paying players to go to Alabama, it's just simply not true, dude.
I would have let him slide if he would have said it's possible, but I don't think so. If he would have said that, I could have let it slide. But he gave me a flat no, and I was like, you're just in denial, buddy.
But he's a great fan. Love Jeff. And I'm just hoping that
the next live show. This is not a ban forever. I just not today.
I'm just hoping that whatever does happen, that it does not college football Armageddon, because I'm really starting to see there's just too many great programs. Like, again, Washington State and Oregon State, a lot of people that aren't in the Pac-12 don't really know how good. What I like about college football are those teams that do so much with so little. And I've never seen two programs do more with so little than Washington State and Oregon State. I got news for you guys. With those Pete Carrolls, you guys just talk about how great Pete Carroll was. The only teams that were knocking off the Pac-12, it wasn't the big schools. It wasn't, Oklahoma. It wasn't, those schools. It was Oregon State and Washington State. So just keep that in mind. I hope they hang around. All right, man.
All right, man. Appreciate you. As usual, Tim always has a pretty good last word. J-Dub, you'll get another chance tomorrow. Don't worry. But, man, to give a flat no on – do you think Nick Saban is doing the stuff that like Jimbo? And I didn't even say to the degree, just anything like that. You said no. Sorry, man. I couldn't go on with that. But we'll go live again tomorrow, and you'll get another shot. So take a deep breath, relax, and now you know. Anyways, all right, that's I gotta wrap it up, guys. On the real life stuff. Hope y'all enjoyed the channel because, like one of my guests said, my job is to entertain you. My job isn't to be right or wrong. My job is to entertain you. So if you were able to be entertained, forget about some of your stresses and some of your problems of real life for just a little bit, then I've done my job. I appreciate you. Everybody that watched, everybody that hit the like button. Hey, before you get out of here, hit the like button on the way out. People will watch the replay of this, and the more likes that this video has, the more it will get suggested. So hit the like button on your way out, and I would greatly appreciate that. Let me get to this super chat real quick. Vanny Rose, appreciate your $5 donation. It says, come on, man. Old St. Nick has... Let me try that again. Come on, man. Old St. Nick has sold just as many magic beans as anyone else. That's all I was saying. Yes, he has hardware, but it's different if the rabbit has the gun. There you go. And we're not smashing Nick Saban. He's taking advantage of the situation. So that's all we were saying. That's it. So yeah, anyways, appreciate everybody that watched, everybody that commented, all the super chats. The support of Golden Blue Dude is through the roof. You guys have blown me away. We'll most definitely get to 9,000 before the beginning of the season, but there's a chance we could get to 10,000, but I can't do it without people like yourself hitting that subscribe button. I know we can do it. And College Game Day coming to Backyard Brawl. They're saying it's not going to be an outside where fans are. It's going to be inside the stadium. I still might be able to somehow get on the show. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm going to break the law and do anything like that, but might be able to figure something out. So keep your fingers crossed. Worst case scenario, I just go to the Backyard Brawl, watch West Virginia beat the pants off of Pitt, and film it. So there you go. Even the worst case scenario is still a good scenario. I'm out of here, guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow. I don't know what time, so it's important to hit the notification bell. That way you know when I go live. All right? But for now, I'll see you later.